Have you ever felt nothing at all? Not peace, but emptiness, so heavy it feels like the air itself is pressing down on you? That numbness isn't rest. It's a warning, a silent cry for motion, not stillness. And in that fog, the only way out is not waiting, but walking. When you feel nothing, it isn't peace. It's your soul begging for movement. You must force yourself to act, not because you're ready, but because action creates readiness. Progress begins the moment you step forward through the haze. That is how strength is built, step by reluctant step. To push forward when you feel empty is to let discipline replace numbness forever. You are not your feelings. You are your standards. You may wake up blank, without spark or fire, yet nothing seems wrong. But that's the trap. Because when nothing feels wrong, most people do nothing. They wait for motivation, for a sign, for energy. And in that waiting, they wither. Listen closely. You are not your feelings, you are your decisions. The man who only moves when he feels like it is a puppet, pulled by moods and unseen forces. But the one who moves regardless, that man becomes the master of his destiny. So what do you do when the fire is gone? You move anyway. You don't wait for emotion. You create momentum. Start with something small. Put on your shoes. Walk. Speak one powerful sentence aloud. Move your body like a soldier, and your spirit will follow. Picture this. You rise from bed half asleep. Force a breath, stretch your arms, and whisper, "Let's go." By noon, you've accomplished more than the man who waited all day to feel ready. Ask yourself, have you confused mood with meaning? Are you living as a cause or as an effect? You don't need to feel alive to act alive. Action comes first. Feelings follow. The day belongs to the man who claims it, not the one who waits to be chosen. Most people wait. Winners create. Most spend their lives waiting for courage, for clarity, for passion. And in that waiting, they lose years. You weren't born to wait. You were born to work, to build, to create. The difference between the man who wins and the one who wanders is simple. One moves through resistance. The other moves only when it's easy. When nothing excites you, you must create your own spark, not by talking or hoping, but by doing something difficult on purpose. That's when you shift. When most lean back, you lean in. So what do you do when you feel nothing? You make a list. You command your feet. You speak life into the day. Even if your voice shakes, you speak power. Picture yourself walking into a room. No applause, no welcome. Yet you straighten your back, you set the tone, you act like it matters, because it does. Ask yourself, do you really want to be the person who only acts when life is easy? Or will you be the one who builds while others break? Most men wait for opportunity to arrive. But you build the door. The body leads, and the mind follows. Your head may feel heavy, but your body is a machine. And machines don't run on emotion. They run on command. So when the weight presses down, lead with motion. Movement is medicine. When you force yourself to act, to lift, to walk, to speak, you change your very chemistry. Stillness breeds more stillness, but action breaks the chain. Most people sit, they stare, they sink. But not you. You rise. When nothing makes sense, do something that does. Make your bed, sweep the floor, run up a hill. Not because it solves everything, but because it begins something. You don't need to feel ready to act. You act until readiness follows. Your ancestors didn't wait for motivation to plow the fields. They moved. They built. They endured. And through that, they found strength. Imagine this. You feel nothing, yet you step outside anyway. You speak a truth aloud. You stand taller, breathe deeper, and suddenly you remember. This is what power feels like. You cannot think your way out of a hole, but you can climb out, one motion at a time. So ask yourself, is your body waiting for your feelings, or are your feelings waiting for your movement? Discipline is stronger than mood. Everyone who ever achieved something meaningful did it at times without wanting to. They weren't motivated, but they moved. That's the truth no one likes to admit. We glorify passion, we romanticize inspiration. Yet when the moment comes, when it matters most, feelings don't decide victory, choices do. Triumph belongs to the one who acts without applause, without a surge of energy, without the perfect reason. Because discipline isn't loud. It isn't emotional. It's a quiet vow you keep, especially when nothing inside you wants to keep it. Feelings are weather. Discipline is structure. Feelings drift, discipline anchors. If you depend on feelings, you'll start and stop 1,000 times. But if you rely on decisions, you'll finish every time. That is what separates those who only try from those who truly become. Discipline never asks, "Do you feel like it today?" It says, "Do it anyway." Every link you add to that chain makes you stronger. You don't need louder motivation, you need deeper commitment. The kind you honor without drama, without audience, without delay. Most people need to feel good before they move. Winners move first, and then they feel good. That's the system. When the alarm rings, they rise. When the task appears, they attack. They don't bargain with laziness. They don't justify inaction, and they don't chase excuses. They chase completion. You've done this before. You've lifted yourself when you were drained. You've delivered when no one was watching. That wasn't luck. That was the disciplined, grounded version of you. Now imagine if that version led every single day. Picture this. You're out in the cold rain, no coat, no cover. The weak run for shelter, but you walk steady, focused. You're not here for comfort. You're here for completion. When others quit, you continue. Not because it feels good, but because you said you would. That is power. That is freedom. When your actions are no longer tied to emotions, you become unstoppable. So ask yourself, who are you when no one's watching? What would your life look like if you stopped waiting to feel ready and simply acted? You weren't made to obey your feelings. You were made to forge them. Burn that truth into your habits, into your walk, into your very name. Every morning is war. Win it early. Every morning is a battle, and it begins the moment your eyes open. No announcements, no warning, just one question. Will you command this day or submit to it? Most people surrender before they even stand. They hit snooze, they drift, and the day owns them before they rise to own themselves. But you must be different. You strike first. Before doubt creeps in, before the noise of the world bangs on your door, power belongs to the one who moves first. Not the strongest, not the loudest, but the fastest to act. You don't wait to feel ready. You become ready. The instant your eyes open, speak power, not complaints. Don't ask how the day feels. Decide how you will show up. Don't check the weather, be the weather. Storm through resistance. Wake with command in your tone and certainty in your step. Build a ritual so strong it pulls you into greatness before the world even stirs. That ritual becomes your armor, your first line of defense, your sacred hour where the day bends to your will. Start simple, start strong. 3 weapons are enough. 1 powerful thought, 1 purposeful movement, and 1 unbreakable decision. That is all it takes to win the first hour. And the one who wins the first hour wins the whole day. A single thought programs your mind. 1 small movement charges your body. And 1 decision, honored without compromise, builds unshakable trust in yourself. This is the battle plan. You don't leave the first hour to chance. You engineer it. Picture this. A man rises before dawn. He sharpens his blade and his mind. Before the birds sing, he's reading, writing, lifting, breathing. Before the sun sees him, he's already working. While the rest still drift in sleep, he advances. By the time others begin their day, he's already winning. Now picture another. Still in bed, still snoozing. The sun rises on both, but only one rises with it. By noon, one is miles ahead. And it's not luck. It's not talent. It's morning warfare. The difference between glory and regret is carved in that first hour. So you must choose. Will the day happen to you? Or will you happen to the day? One is reaction. The other is command. Most stumble into their mornings, hoping for clarity, for motivation, for direction. But you begin with certainty, with movement, with fire. Because if you own the morning, the rest of the day falls into place. Ask yourself, are you the one who waits to be moved, or the one who moves first and lets the world catch up? You don't need emotion, you need a mission. Most people mistake emotion for power. They wait to feel excited, ready, motivated. But emotion is smoke. It rises and disappears. It flares, then fades. It is not the engine, it's the exhaust. What lasts, what drives, what builds is mission. Mission gives you the reason to act when nothing feels right. Mission doesn't care if you're tired. It doesn't ask how your day is going. It only whispers, get up, keep going, we've got work to do. Without a mission, every task feels heavy. Every hardship feels unfair. You search for shortcuts, you start and stop. But with a mission, even pain becomes sacred. Exhaustion turns holy. There's a vast difference between suffering aimlessly and suffering with purpose. You don't need fireworks in your chest every morning. What you need is a North Star. Something worth pushing for when your legs tremble, when no one is watching, when the reward feels distant. That is when your mission does its greatest work. It steadies you when emotion would blow you off course. A person without mission is like a feather in the wind. Light, fragile, directionless. One bad day knocks them down. One critic makes them quit. One delay sends them drifting. But a person with purpose becomes the wind. They cut through excuses. They move with power, not panic. They are not tossed. They tread forward. They don't chase comfort. They chase completion. Anchored to something deeper, they outlast those who live only on feelings. So ask yourself, what drives you? What mission is worth rising for? Even when your body says no. Is it your family's future? Your freedom? The fire to create something no one else believes in but you? What is the why that refuses to let you quit, even when quitting looks easy? If you cannot answer that, nothing else will hold. But once you find it, everything else aligns. Now imagine waking up with that mission stamped on your chest. You don't crawl into the day, you charge. You already know what must be done. The weather doesn't matter. Your feelings don't matter. Someone's opinion doesn't even register. You rise with direction, move with authority, and endure with joy, because pain now has a purpose. Nothing fuels you more than knowing you're not wasting time. You're fulfilling a calling. That's why your mission must be written down, clear and unshakable. Read it every morning. Tattoo it on your mind. Let it burn in your bloodstream. When you feel low, read it again. When you feel empty, speak it aloud. When you feel distracted, return to it. Because emotion will betray you. Motivation will arrive late. But mission shows up every time. So ask yourself one final question. Is your life led by impulse or by intention? One leads to regret. The other leads to legacy. You weren't built to follow your feelings. You were built to forge through them. Let your mission be your fire. And never let it burn out. You were built for storms, not silence. Life was never meant to be easy. And you weren't made for ease. You were crafted for storms, for pressure, for challenge, for resistance. That is where the real work happens. That is where you happen. In the struggle, in the discomfort, in the moments when the world presses harder than you feel ready to give. That's where true strength is born. Ease softens, struggle sharpens, and deep down, you already know this. When nothing excites you, when days feel flat and hours turn numb, it isn't because you've lost something. It's because you stopped stepping into the arena. You grew too careful, too safe, too quiet. You've avoided discomfort for so long that you forgot how to fight. Your edge has dulled, not because life defeated you, but because you stopped choosing resistance. The fire that once drove you didn't burn out. It was starved. You've let silence settle in. Now it's time to shake it off. Remember this. Iron doesn't sharpen in stillness. It sharpens in fire, under pressure, against grit. That's where the edge returns, where the blade remembers its bite. And you are no different. You don't evolve through repetition. You evolve through resistance. That's why you must not run from the hard things. You must lean in. Choose the task that terrifies, the mission that overwhelms, the road that rises to meet you with teeth. Most people crave a quiet life, yet they end up with a silent one. They chase comfort so hard that they lose aliveness. They wake in beds they don't remember choosing, walk paths they didn't build, and fill their days with routine, void of fire, void of challenge, void of true living. It's quiet, yes, but it's the quiet of slow erosion, of silent desperation, a life never fully lived. But you were never meant for that kind of sleep. You choose the storm. You step into the test. You volunteer for the wait. Because that's where your real self emerges. You don't grow by avoiding the edge. You grow by standing on it. Do you want to feel alive again? Then scare yourself. Do something you're not ready for. Speak before you feel steady. Volunteer first. Lead the charge. Say yes when every cell screams no. That is where the blood returns, where the fire roars again. Now picture this. You stand at a crossroads. One path is smooth and familiar, the path of comfort. The other is rocky, uncertain, demanding something from you. Most choose the easy road towards safety, toward nothingness. But you walk forward, straight into the wind. Not because it's safe, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Because that's where your future lives. In the heat, in the cold, in the wild places. Ask yourself, are you shrinking into safety or stepping into strength? The real question isn't about pain, it's about purpose. It's about choosing a life that doesn't just exist, but awakens. And when you feel numb, when nothing stirs you, don't sit still. Walk into the wind, head high, shoulders square. That is where your power lives, where your blood returns, where you return. You can build momentum out of nothing. The most powerful people in history didn't begin with motivation. They didn't wait for applause or the perfect plan, mood, or timing. They started with nothing. No certainty, no map, no encouragement. Just a simple decision to move. Quietly, steadily, without fanfare. And they kept moving when no one noticed, when the noise was absent, when results were slow. Because they knew the truth, greatness doesn't erupt. It accumulates. Brick by brick, step by step, action by action. Here's the secret most people never learn. You don't need a big action, you just need a first action. Not a grand plan, not a perfect schedule, just a start. One decision, one page written, one lap run, one call made. That single movement is where it all begins. Not because it transforms everything instantly, but because it breaks inertia. And once inertia is broken, momentum becomes your ally. Not through force, but through consistency. Momentum isn't built by massive effort. It's built by unbroken effort. What matters most is not how much you can do today, but whether you'll still be doing it tomorrow. Tiny, consistent effort outpaces scattered intensity. And something remarkable happens once you begin. Energy doesn't come before movement, it follows it. You don't feel energized first and then act. You act, and the energy arrives. The mind sharpens. The body wakes. The fire returns not by chance, but by motion. Most people wait to feel right before they start, but feelings are fragile, unreliable, shifting like fog. They change with sleep, with food, with mood. If you depend on them, you'll remain still. But if you move despite them, you find clarity. Because movement creates feedback. Action generates direction. One small act opens a path you couldn't see before. And once that path appears, you rise. Not because you were ready, but because you refuse to stay down. Imagine this. You sit alone. The day feels hollow. The room is quiet. No rush of inspiration, no divine signal. Just you and the next moment. Instead of waiting, you move. You pick up a notebook, sketch a messy idea, write a single sentence. You stand, stretch, take a walk, breathe with intention. One small act, then another. And by sunset, you've created something out of nothing. You didn't need a miracle. You just needed movement. This is the principle that separates builders from dreamers, finishers from waiters. Dreamers hope, builders do, and they keep doing, even when it feels small, especially when it feels small. Because every great creation, every empire, every book, every transformation began with one unremarkable act. One decision made on a day that didn't feel special. The world doesn't reward potential, it rewards traction. And traction is earned by doing something today, no matter how small it seems. Ask yourself this. How many days have you lost waiting for the perfect one? How many mornings slipped away because you didn't feel in the zone? How many ideas died unborn because you never took the first step? The truth is, you don't need more time. You don't need better feelings. You don't need a breakthrough. What you need is traction, that first inch forward, that first brick laid, that first drop of sweat, then the rest follows. The energy, the rhythm, the focus, the wins, all of it comes after the first move, never before. So stop waiting. Don't wait for clarity. Move until it arrives. Don't wait to feel strong. Act until you become strong. Start small. Start now. And never stop. Because once you begin, momentum becomes your companion. Momentum turns the impossible into the inevitable. Weakness leaves when discipline enters. Every person carries weakness, doubt, laziness, fear, the urge to quit. It lingers in the background, always waiting for an opening. And weakness will win if you feed it. But the disciplined person never feeds it. They don't water it with excuses, don't sit down to reason with it. They starve it completely, not with rage, but with silence. They ignore its cries, outlast its temptations. And day by day, it grows weaker until it can no longer rise against them. Discipline isn't about being perfect. It's not about waking up every day in a flawless state of mind or feeling motivated 365 days a year. Discipline is the rope strong enough to pull you out of the pit, especially on the days when you feel nothing. It's doing what you said you would do, regardless of your emotional state. Emotions are clouds. Discipline is stone. And if you want to build something that lasts, You don't build on feelings, you build on foundation. Too often, people confuse discipline with ambition. They think it's only about chasing huge dreams or grand goals. But that's only part of it. True discipline lives in the smallest corners of life, in the daily decisions. The ones no one sees. No cameras, no praise, no applause. Just you and the standard you swore to uphold. It's in what you eat, what you say, what you do when you don't feel like doing anything. It's the ability to show up consistently. Not perfectly, but relentlessly. Most people break in silence. Not in chaos, not in war, but in quiet moments. In the softness of a morning when no one is watching. In the stillness of a decision made alone, they fold. They slip. Because their strength depended on pressure, not principle. But you must be different. You must be the one who obeys your own orders, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. Because that's when transformation happens. Not when it's easy, but when it feels unbearable and you stay the course. Imagine this. You stand before a task you hate. There's no thrill, no excitement, just the grind. You look at it, feel nothing, and step forward anyway. Maybe slow, maybe clumsy, but you begin. And that act is everything. It's not the task itself that changes you. It's your refusal to escape it. Slowly, the weight begins to fade, not because it gets easier, but because you grow stronger. Weakness doesn't die quickly. It dies from starvation, and that starvation is discipline. Every time you choose action over excuse, focus over distraction, consistency over comfort, you cut weakness at the root. Yes, it fights back. It screams for relief. But you give it nothing. You let it wither, let it shrink, and you keep moving. Not because it's glorious, but because it's necessary. Ask yourself, are you feeding your strength or feeding your excuses? You can't do both. Every decision tips the scale. Every moment is a fork in the road, and no one is coming to save you from the wrong choice. Only you can set the standard, and only you can keep it. Even when it's cold, even when it's lonely, even when the world whispers, take it easy. That is when you tighten the rope. That is when you dig in. Because discipline is not a feeling. It's not even a habit. It's a conviction, a private vow to yourself. I do what I say. I don't betray my own word. When that becomes your identity, everything shifts. Your energy returns, your mind clears, your backbone strengthens. Weakness no longer has a seat at your table, no room in your house. You've chosen to live by standards, not excuses. Discipline is the enemy of weakness. Bring one in, and the other must leave. You cannot serve both. You cannot walk both paths. One leads to power, the other to regret. So choose, right now, not tomorrow, not next week. What will you feed? And when the day grows long, when fatigue whispers lies, when nothing in you feels like continuing, remember this: the disciplined move anyway. And because of that, they become someone entirely new, unstoppable, forged by fire, unrecognizable even to their old self. Be that person. Starve weakness, feed the standard, and never look back. Every day you are training the world how to treat you, whether you realize it or not. You teach people who you are, not with words, but with behavior. Not with declarations, but with decisions. And here's the hard truth. Every time you quit on your goals, your standards, your promises to yourself, you silently tell the world it's okay to treat you that way. Because if you don't respect your own word, why should they? But when you force yourself, especially when you feel nothing, you broadcast a different message. You show the world something rare. You show that you are reliable. You are not a product of mood, weather, emotion, or circumstance. You act not because it feels good, but because it is right. You act because you gave yourself a command, and you intend to honor it. That quiet reliability becomes your greatest power. Respect is not built in moments of glory. It's built in the invisible acts. When you do the hard thing alone with no audience. When you keep your word in the dark. When you rise without recognition. Those acts accumulate. They build your spine. They carve your name. And even if most never speak it, they notice. Quietly, subconsciously, people begin to adjust around you. That's the secret many miss. You don't ask for respect. You command it. Through consistency. Through reliability. Through showing up sharp when others show up sloppy. People may not understand why they listen when you speak, or why they follow when you move. But it's because you train them by first training yourself. Your very presence says, I don't bend. And that silent message is louder than any speech. Picture this. Two people walk into a room. One drags his feet, shoulders slouched, sighing, already defeated before the day begins. He doesn't say it aloud, but his posture whispers, "I've given up on myself." The other enters with quiet strength. Head up, eyes forward, calm, focused, intentional. He doesn't shout. He doesn't brag, yet the room notices. His discipline speaks for him. That is what quiet authority looks like. So ask yourself, who are you becoming? Because you are becoming someone, whether you pay attention or not. Every action, every pattern, every standard you hold or break shapes the person you are. Are you teaching the world that you're strong, that you finish what you start, that your word carries weight? Or are you teaching them to take you lightly, because you take yourself lightly? When you show up sharp, mentally, physically, emotionally, the world adjusts. It meets you with higher energy, greater opportunity, more respect. But when you slack, when you let yourself slip, the world mirrors that too. It lowers the bar, reflecting your lowered standard. That's why change begins with you. Before you expect others to treat you differently, you must change how you treat yourself. You want your boss, your peers, your clients, your friends, your family to take you seriously? Then take yourself seriously. Show them, day by day, that you are not to be doubted. Not because you shout your worth, but because you prove it in silence. Let your habits speak. Let your discipline speak. Let your refusal to fold under pressure speak. That's how the world learns who you are. And it doesn't require grand gestures. It requires daily alignment. Wake up and make your bed, not for the room, but for your mind. Speak with clarity, not to impress, but to express truth. Train your body, not for vanity, but to build discipline. Show up early. Speak less. Finish what you start. These are not small acts. This is how empires are built, one brick at a time, laid by someone who no longer tolerates weakness. Begin where it's hard. Begin where it's quiet. Begin when you don't feel ready. Because the world is watching, not with eyes, but with response. And its response will always mirror how you treat yourself. You don't need a crowd. You don't need applause. What you need is a standard that refuses to bend. The question is simple. Are you training the world to take you seriously or softly? And if you don't like the answer, the solution begins with one step. Begin. Begin with strength. Begin with discipline. Begin again if you must, but begin. Every time you sharpen yourself, the world feels it. Every time you raise your standard, the world rises too. And one day, without realizing it, you'll walk into a room and it will fall silent. Not from fear, not from fame, but from respect, because you taught them who you are. By first refusing to be anything less. Nothing changes if you don't act differently. Most people believe time changes things. They wait, thinking life will improve if they just hold on long enough. They mark days off the calendar as if the passage of time itself carries magic. But time is passive. Time doesn't change your habits. Time doesn't shift your identity. Time doesn't rewrite your story. Action does. You could wait 5 years and still be in the exact same place. Mentally, physically, emotionally. You can grow older without ever growing up. What moves your life forward is never the tick of the clock. It's the decision to do something different. And that choice matters most when you feel nothing, when emptiness, boredom, and lack of fire weigh you down. That's the real test, the battlefield where your future is decided. Anyone can act when they're inspired. Anyone can move when momentum is already there. But transformation happens when you move in the quiet. When your heart feels flat, the sky looks gray, and nothing inside says go. That is the difference between repeating your life and rebuilding it. Change doesn't arrive at your door, wrapped in motivation and sunshine. Change is forged in resistance, in discomfort, in small but powerful shifts that feel inconvenient yet matter deeply. It's built one decision at a time, by choosing the harder path, breaking lazy habits, confronting the behaviors that hold you back, and replacing them with strength. If you always rise late, force yourself to rise early. Not because mornings have magic, but because you do. And you must prove to yourself that effort outweighs ease. If you always quit when things get hard, force yourself to finish strong. Finish when it's inconvenient, when your body aches, when your mind resists, because that's how you begin to rewire your destiny. The smallest shift in behavior plants the seed of an entirely new life. One different choice today creates ripples into every tomorrow. One stronger decision begins to erode years of weakness, and slowly, those small acts of strength add up. You start to trust yourself again. You stand taller. You begin becoming the person you once only imagined. Picture this. You walk the same path to work every day. Same sights, same sounds, same pace. It's predictable, it's safe, but it's also stale. Now imagine one morning you take a new turn. It's unfamiliar, it's longer, it's harder, but it shakes you awake. It forces you to see new things, think new thoughts, move with intention. That single detour shifts your entire rhythm. It awakens the parts of you routine had put to sleep. This is how change begins. Not with a bang, not with an overnight transformation, but with a different step, a different word, a different choice. And once you take it, you're no longer stuck, you're moving. And movement creates momentum. Momentum is power. Ask yourself this. Are you truly changing your life, or just recycling your days? Are you growing, or simply aging? Because if your actions don't change, your outcomes never will. You can read every book, watch every video, make every vision board, but without different action, nothing changes. And that's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. Progress isn't about time, it's about change. So when nothing feels like it's shifting, shift yourself. When nothing stirs inside, move outside yourself. Get uncomfortable. Do the hard thing. Speak power into your day when silence feels easier. Choose to show up, even when no one is asking. Choose discipline when your emotions beg for escape. Because the person who changes their behavior changes their future, not just in one area, but in everything. A stronger morning routine gives you more energy. Deeper focus at work creates greater opportunity. A harder workout builds mental toughness. A refusal to make excuses strengthens your character. Every small act of intention adds up to a life that commands respect from others and from yourself. You don't need more time. You need traction. That first brave step. That small change that says, I'm done waiting. I'm ready to evolve. So begin now. Begin where it's quiet, where it's hard, where no one else sees. Because when you stop waiting for change and decide to be the change, you stop recycling days and start rebuilding your life. Most people are ruled by comfort. And comfort is the most dangerous trap you'll ever face, precisely because it doesn't look like one. It feels good, it feels safe. It whispers softly, you've earned this, you deserve to take it easy. And without warning, it becomes your master. Not by force, but by permission. It makes the chair a little softer, the bed a little warmer, the decisions a little easier. And while you sink into that ease, your edge begins to dull. Your purpose, once sharp and alive, starts to fade, slowly, silently, almost invisibly. That's what makes comfort so deadly. It doesn't arrive with alarms. It doesn't take everything at once. It creeps. Comfort wraps you in softness until you stop stretching, stop chasing, stop becoming. Then one day you wake up and realize you've drifted, not from tragedy or failure, but from one easy choice after another. Slowly, the fire inside you dims. And the most dangerous part? You don't even feel it happening. You laugh, relax, indulge, while time slips quietly through your fingers. Dreams don't die with a bang. They suffocate under pillows of comfort. The mission that once burned inside gets buried beneath maybe tomorrow. Just one more break. I don't feel like it today. This is how warriors turn into wanderers. Not because they failed, but because they settled. But understand this, you weren't made to live soft. You were built for challenge, designed for resistance, crafted to endure, to build, to stretch beyond your limits. There's a reason comfort never brings fulfillment. It's not supposed to. The deepest part of you wants the fight, craves the discipline, hungers for growth that only discomfort can bring. But ignore that call long enough, and it stops calling. When life feels flat, numb, uninspired, it may not be depression or failure. It might just be comfort poisoning your edge. You've avoided the hard path for so long that pushing no longer feels natural. You've traded the thrill of becoming for the ease of staying the same. So take it back. Reclaim your edge. Don't wait for discomfort to find you. Seek it. Choose it. Walk instead of ride. Speak when it feels uncomfortable. Do the task you've been avoiding. Carry what you would normally drop. When the easy option appears, turn the other way, not because it's wrong, but because it weakens you. Imagine 1 week without the easy choice. No snooze button, no excuses, no shortcuts. Just you, choosing the path that stretches. Yes, you'd feel pain. But beneath that pain comes pride, strength, momentum. The return of fire. Because every time you choose discomfort deliberately, you remind yourself, I am not here to coast. I am here to conquer. Ask yourself now, are your comforts making you stronger or slowly stealing your courage? There is no neutral ground. Every comfort either sharpens or softens you, makes you bolder or duller, pulls you toward greatness or drags you into mediocrity. Comfort feels good now, but it costs you later. The price is clarity, drive, self-respect. And in the end, regret always weighs heavier than resistance. The one who chooses the hard path today sleeps easier at night, not because the body is fully rested, but because the spirit is. So choose strength, choose challenge, choose life over ease. When your body says rest, but you know it's time to move, move anyway. When your mind says give up, but your heart knows better, keep going. When you feel numb and wonder what's missing, find the hardest thing you can do and do it. That's where life lives. That's where power returns. That's where you return. Comfort isn't evil, but when it becomes your habit, it becomes your master. No strong life is built under the rule of ease. Strength, purpose, fire, they are forged in friction, in heat, in heart. You don't become what you say. You become what you endure. So start today. Choose the stairs, lift the weight, face the awkward silence. Do the work when no one is watching. Turn your life into a daily act of resistance. One choice at a time, one rep at a time, one truth at a time. Because comfort is a silent thief, and it only wins when you stop fighting back. No one respects a person who quits on themselves. People watch more than they listen. They remember not what you said, but what you stayed with. You can give speeches about growth, discipline, commitment, but if your actions don't reflect those words, they fade like fog in the morning sun. Real respect isn't built on intention. It's built on evidence. People remember who kept going, who showed up, who refused to quit when the lights went out and the pressure rose. And it all begins here, with the promises you make to yourself. Not the ones you post online. Not the ones you casually mention to friends. The ones you whisper in silence. I'll wake up early. I'll stop making excuses. I'll finish what I start. These are sacred agreements. And the fastest way to lose self-respect is to break them. You say you'll rise early, then sleep in. You say you'll commit, then fold. Every time that happens, something inside you shrinks. Your inner voice grows quieter. Your belief in yourself weakens. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin doubting the one person who should be most dependable, yourself. The downward spiral isn't sudden. It's erosion, piece by piece. And the scariest part? You get used to it. You brush it off with excuses, just one day. I'll try again next week. But deep down, a dangerous belief takes root. I don't trust myself. And if you don't trust yourself, no praise from others can fix it. No compliment can replace the confidence that comes only from keeping your own word. The good news is this: trust can be rebuilt. Not with words, not with hype, but with action. One act of discipline, especially when you feel nothing, begins restoration. You didn't want to work out, but you did. You didn't feel like writing, but you sat down anyway. You didn't crave excellence, but you chose it in that moment. And something powerful happens. You start to believe in yourself again. And when you believe in you, others will too. Quietly, subconsciously, you walk into a room with more weight. Not because you're louder, but because you're anchored. People may not be able to name it, but they feel it. A quiet authority, a presence that says, this person means what they say. In a world full of talkers, consistency commands attention. You become someone worth following, not because of titles or trophies, but because of integrity. People sense you don't fold when it's inconvenient, that you don't speak unless you intend to live it out. That kind of power is rare. It's magnetic, but it doesn't come from external achievements. It comes from inner alignment. Picture this: you feel heavy after a long day. The hours dragged, motivation is gone. Yet there's still a task you promised to finish. You stare at it. Every part of you wants to push it to tomorrow. Instead, you act. You finish. Not because it's thrilling, but because you said you would. That single act may not bring applause, but it wins you back to yourself. And that is worth everything. Because the truth is, your life will always follow the voice you trust most. And if your own voice is filled with broken promises, your actions will reflect it. You'll hesitate. You'll sabotage. You'll stay stuck. Not because of circumstances, but because of the voice inside asking, would you admire someone with your current consistency? These aren't easy questions, but they're necessary. They expose the gap between who you say you are and who you really are when no one's watching. That's where your reputation is born, not in public, but in private. Not when you're celebrated, but when you're unseen, tired, and quitting would be easy. That's the moment that defines you. That's when respect is earned. Anyone can start. Anyone can promise. Few can persist. Fewer still can persist without recognition. But that is the price of becoming solid. That is the weight of being a person of substance. You keep going not for applause, but because your name means something to you. Your word is a contract, not a suggestion. And once you live like that, everything shifts. Your confidence rises, your presence deepens, and the world begins to respond. So start right where you are. Don't wait for motivation. Don't wait for a clean slate. Take the next step you promised yourself you'd take. That's how trust is rebuilt, how identity is reshaped. One decision, one action, one moment of discipline at a time. You don't rise by talking about it. You rise by doing it, quietly, consistently. And when the voice inside you finally says, "We don't break our word," that's when you know. You've become someone worth following. Because your standards set your altitude. You don't get what you wish for, you get what you tolerate. That truth separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. Dreams are common. Standards are rare. Everyone wants success, confidence, discipline, transformation. But only those who demand it from themselves, day after day, actually create it. Every time you lower your standards, your results fall with them. Outcomes never exceed expectations. You can't build an elite life on average choices. And when you feel nothing, no passion, no drive, no spark, that is when your standards are truly tested. After all, who can't aim high when energy is already high? Anyone can claim, "I'm disciplined," when the mood supports it. But the real question is this: what do you demand of yourself when nothing pushes you? What effort do you require when inspiration has left the room? The answer reveals whether your life is built on commitment or comfort. Most people lower their effort to match their feelings. If they feel tired, they pull back. If discouraged, they let go. If bored, they wait for excitement before acting again. And that's why so few ever break past average, because feelings are fragile. If your work ethic depends on them, then so does your future. Greatness belongs to those who hold the line, especially in low moments. When nothing inside says go, they show up anyway. That's why you need something stronger than motivation. You need a code, a non-negotiable system of values and behaviors that do not bend with emotion. A standard that doesn't care how tired, hurt, or discouraged you feel. It simply declares, "This is who I am. This is how I operate." No exceptions. Picture this. You're a craftsman building chairs. On day one, you check every angle, sand every edge, take your time, take pride. But as days pass, the novelty fades. No one sees the underside of the chair. No one checks the details. And yet, you still check. You still measure twice. You still refine. Not because someone is watching, but because your standard demands it. You're not just building chairs. You're building your name, your reputation, your legacy. Your standard is your signature. That's the level you must adopt in everything. Not only in the grand moments, but in the smallest details. How you train, how you speak, how you rest, how you respond when no one is watching. Because every time you raise your standards, when you raise your standards, your life has to follow. Relationships improve, your body strengthens, your finances sharpen, and your spirit deepens. Everything becomes a reflection of what you demand from yourself. But the reverse is also true. Lower your standards, and your life slowly unravels. It won't collapse overnight. It drifts. You arrive 5 minutes late instead of early. You settle for good enough instead of pushing for what's possible. You allow behaviors you once rejected. That slow erosion compounds until one day, you realize you've tolerated yourself into a life you never wanted. So ask yourself, are you shaping your life through commitment or through comfort? One leads to strength, the other to stagnation. And the scariest part? You may not even notice the shift until it's already cost you your edge. That's why your standards must live above your feelings. You may feel exhausted, but your standard says you finish anyway. You may feel uninspired, but your code demands you show up sharp. You may feel weak, but your identity says, "This is who I am. I don't quit. I don't lower the bar." This isn't about perfection, it's about principle. You will fail. You will miss the mark. But every time you slip, you return. not to how you feel, but to what you've committed to. Because your code isn't emotional. It's foundational. It anchors you when storms hit. It keeps you focused when the noise grows loud. And over time, it forges you into someone unshakable. Imagine if every decision in your life had to rise to meet your highest standard. No shortcuts, no soft excuses, no more living by mood. Just a clear, unbreakable code of personal excellence. Picture the strength, the confidence, the respect you'd earn, not from others, but from yourself. That kind of integrity changes everything. Because at the end of the day, life doesn't give you what you wish for. It gives you what you demand from yourself. You are not entitled to greatness. You earn it through discipline, through consistency, through refusing to accept anything less than your best. So raise the bar, and then hold the line. When you feel like giving in, double down. When comfort whispers, answer with action. That's how standards become identity. And identity shapes destiny. You don't need more motivation. You don't need better feelings. You need non-negotiables. Once those are in place, your choices become simple. You don't have to debate. You just act. Because this is who you are now. This is the level you've chosen. And when your standards rise, your life must rise with them. There is no other way. Energy doesn't return to those who quit. It returns to those who refuse to. Energy doesn't come from rest. It comes from resolve. Isn't that one of the most misunderstood truths about performance? Most people believe they regain energy by stopping, by retreating into rest. But often the real answer is not stillness, it's strain. Not retreat, but resistance. Energy doesn't flow to the one who sits. It flows to the one who moves. You don't reignite your fire by waiting for it. You spark it by doing something. That's why when you push for one more rep, write one more page, or lean into one more difficult conversation, you come out stronger, not weaker. Something inside of you awakens. The muscles respond. The mind sharpens. The second wind arrives. But only after you choose to push forward, never before. That is the true power of momentum. Pushing past the point of resistance doesn't just build endurance, it builds belief. It proves you're not empty, not finished, and that there's far more inside you than you imagined. Once momentum takes hold, it begins to feed itself. Each hard-earned step makes the next one easier, not because the road is lighter, but because you are stronger. Most people never discover this truth because they stop too soon. They hit the wall and assume it's the end. But that wall isn't a stop sign, it's a test. And every test asks the same question. Will you keep going when it no longer feels good? That's the gateway, the price, the exact moment where fatigue breaks and energy is reborn. Not in theory, but in your bones. So when you feel nothing, don't stop. Move slowly if you must, but move. Write a single line, walk one block, lift one more rep. Even the smallest action carries the seed of recovery. Because energy doesn't arrive before effort, it meets you in it. You earn it through motion. Picture this. You're digging under the burning sun, arms aching, doubt whispering. Maybe there's nothing here. You want to quit. Everything in you begs for relief. But something deeper says, just a little more. And then, crack. You strike gold. Not by luck, not because conditions were perfect, but because you refused to stop digging. That treasure was always there, but it belongs only to the one who endures. So ask yourself, how much energy have you left buried by quitting early? How many sparks died because you walked away too soon? How many dreams and relationships never reached their peak? Not because they lacked value, but because you didn't push far enough to uncover it. Not because they lacked value, but because you lacked persistence. We live in a world that worships comfort and misunderstands fatigue. We're taught to see tiredness as a red light, when often it's just a threshold. Your body, your mind, your emotions, they don't just need rest, they need reasons. Reasons to show up, reasons to stretch. And the fastest way to renew your strength is to use it. To remind yourself that energy doesn't live on the couch or in the pause, it lives in the push. This doesn't mean recklessness or ignoring your body when it's truly breaking. It means learning to tell the difference between rest and relief. Rest is recovery. Relief is retreat. And retreat drains more energy than exhaustion ever could because it teaches your mind that discomfort is the enemy. That effort is dangerous. And that lie weakens more people than fatigue itself. Here's the truth. You don't build energy by saving it. You build it by spending it wisely. Like a muscle, energy grows when it's used. It multiplies under challenge. It adapts when it's summoned. But if you always wait until you feel ready, you'll rarely move and you'll rarely rise. That's why the second wind is so powerful. It doesn't arrive at the start or when you wish for it. It comes only after you've proven yourself worthy. And when it hits, it teaches you something priceless. You are capable of more than you ever believed. Isn't that discovery worth chasing? And once you taste it, you'll never trust your first impulse to quit again. When fatigue shows up, lean in. When your mind whispers to slow down, test it. When your mood drops, move anyway. Rhythm returns to the one who keeps walking. The flame reignites for the one who keeps striking the match. Action cures stagnation. Effort is the key to vitality. Movement is medicine because the fuel isn't outside you. It's not hidden in a perfect environment, a better schedule, or someone else's encouragement. It's buried within, waiting on the far side of effort. And the only way to reach it is to push beyond your feelings. So ask yourself, what if you're just one rep away from strength, one step away from clarity, one more minute from your second wind? What if the answer is yes? Act like it is, because often it truly is. Energy flows to the one who moves. So keep moving, keep pushing, keep digging. Let your resolve be the engine that sparks the fire again. Every day you're practicing either power or permission. One choice puts your hands firmly on the wheel. The other makes you a passenger. One makes you the author of your story. The other just a character in someone else's script. And here's the harsh truth. Most people spend their entire lives waiting. Waiting to be chosen. Waiting to be told it's time. Waiting for the perfect conditions. But life doesn't hand out permission slips. It hands out consequences for inaction. When you feel nothing, when the tank is empty and the direction unclear, that's when waiting feels safest. You tell yourself you'll start when you're ready, when someone notices, when someone gives you the green light. But that green light rarely comes. Not because you're unworthy, but because the world is too busy chasing its own path. No one is coming to push you. You must be the one who moves without permission. You don't need applause to begin. You don't need clarity to take the first step. And you certainly don't need the approval of people who don't share your vision. You need only one thing, a decision. That's where all power begins. Not in emotion, not in fleeting inspiration, but in the quiet resolve that says, I move now. I don't wait. I lead. Picture this. Two people sit at the same table. Both have the same tools, the same hours, the same doubts. But one is frozen, waiting for the signal, the mentor, the motivation. The other decides, now is the time. They pick up the pen, they take the first swing. And by evening, one life has already changed. When one builds momentum, they begin rewriting their story. The other, still waiting, delays yet again. The difference isn't talent or opportunity, it's choice. One acted, the other waited. And this same decision plays out in your life every single day, in small ways. You know the call you should make, the project you should start, the boundary you need to set. But instead, you wait, you doubt, you search for signs. Here's the truth. You are the sign. You create the opening the moment you step into it. If you wait until it feels right, you'll live in permanent delay because nothing ever feels right at the start. Power comes after the first move, never before. How many decisions have you put off, hoping for a signal that never came? How much time have you wasted hesitating, wishing the world would hand you certainty it never promised? The longer you wait, the quieter your instincts become. The more you defer, the more life slips from your hands, passing the pen to someone else. And you end up living inside someone else's story, wondering how you drifted so far from your own. But this isn't about regret, it's about reclaiming. Because you can start right now. One act of courage is enough to shift the entire direction of your life. You don't need a crowd, and you don't need certainty. You only need to say, this is my life. I don't need permission to build it. It might be as simple as waking an hour earlier, speaking up in the meeting, declaring your goals out loud, beginning the work when no one believes. These moments may look small, but they're massive. They declare who you are, someone who doesn't wait, someone who doesn't beg for approval, someone who moves first. And here's the beautiful part. When you move, the world responds. Not always immediately, not always loudly, but always consistently. People begin to treat you differently, not because you demanded respect, but because your actions defined you. Power attracts power. Leadership commands attention. And when you take authority over your own life, others will quietly respect it. Even if they never say it, when you feel nothing yet act anyway. That is the moment that counts most. Not when you're fired up, not when everything feels easy, but in the quiet, in the hard moments, when nothing around you gives a reason. That's when true leaders are built. That's when real courage is forged. And remember, doing nothing is still a decision, a choice to hand the wheel to fear, hesitation, or someone else. But you can change that right now. One decision, one move, one act that says, I own this day, I own this direction, I don't wait, I act. You've waited long enough. The world isn't going to hand you an invitation. The door won't open on its own. You must push it wide with presence, with purpose, with power. Every time you move without permission, you build more of it inside you. Soon, you become unstoppable, not because life got easier, but because you stopped asking for approval to live it. Ask yourself, would the person I want to become be waiting right now or moving? Then do what they would do and watch how your life starts to follow. Your future is hidden in today's effort. Most people see the future as a mystery, imagining it will someday reveal itself like a curtain pulled back to show success, wealth, happiness, or purpose. But the truth is far simpler and far more confronting. The future isn't hidden, waiting to be discovered. It's built, brick by brick, act by act, choice by choice. What you live tomorrow is shaped by what you do today. But here's the challenge. When you feel nothing, when the day feels pointless, it's easy to forget that truth. You wake up, stare at your to-do list, and wonder, what's the point? The reward feels far away. The pain feels close. The excitement is gone. Without an immediate payoff, your mind whispers, it doesn't matter. But that's a lie, because every small action is a seed. And if you don't plant today, nothing grows tomorrow. You want success later? Then show effort now, real effort, even when no one's watching, especially then. That's where the foundation is built, not under the spotlight, but in solitude. The world celebrates outcomes, yet every outcome is born from quiet days, unseen work, and countless repetitions without applause. If you want to stand tall 5 years from now, dig deep today. The most dangerous habit is waiting. Waiting for signs, for motivation, for perfect conditions. But opportunity doesn't knock on every door. It knocks on the door that's being built. While others dream of success, you prepare for it. You sharpen your tools, strengthen your skills, and build the character needed to carry the life you desire. Ask yourself this. The person you want to become, the life you want to live, what do they require from you today? The future doesn't just arrive. It demands discipline, consistency, and effort, especially on the days when effort feels pointless. The moment you stop treating today like it matters, you disconnect from that future. Imagine someone meeting you 5 years from now, seeing your growth, your strength, your clarity, and asking, how did you do it? The honest answer would be this: you built it on days like today. Not just the inspiring days, not just the wins, but the flat ones. The days you wanted to quit, but didn't. The days nothing inside you felt alive, but you moved anyway. Those are the bricks no one notices, yet everyone stands on later. Most people think big futures come from big moments, but that's rarely true. Big futures are disguised as quiet consistency. A workout no one saw, an hour of focused reading, one debt paid, one habit kept. These small choices form the life you want. Miss them, and you miss the build. So ask yourself honestly, are you preparing for the future you want, or just wishing for it? Are your actions aligned with your vision, or are you only talking about it? Are today's choices building something real, or just passing time? You don't need a perfect day to make progress. You only need to act with intention. Small actions, consistent actions, those are the bricks. You may not see the structure rising, but it is, quietly, with every disciplined morning, every distraction resisted, every small step forward. That is the construction site of your future. But here's the danger. You can just as easily build a future you don't want. Every excuse, every delay, every time you say I'll start tomorrow, you're still building. But what you're building is regret. One day your future self will look back and wonder, why didn't I take it seriously when I had the chance? Because the truth is, you are building something every single day. Strength or weakness, progress or excuses, discipline or disorder. The choice isn't whether you build, but what you're building. So treat today like it matters, because it does. Not because it feels exciting, not because it looks rewarding, but because the future you want depends on it. Earning it means showing up, especially when you don't feel like it. It means choosing alignment over comfort, refusing to let the dullness of today blind you to its value. The greatest mistake is believing that small acts don't matter. They do. They are the only things that move you forward. Talent won't save you without effort. Vision won't help without follow-through, and desire dies without discipline. So rise, move, work. Plant the seed. Lay the brick. Even if it's slow, even if it's quiet, especially when it's hard. Because this moment, right now, is either a step forward or a stall, and your future will reflect that difference. You don't need to feel powerful to act with power. You just need to keep acting until effort becomes identity. Once that shift happens, you stop wondering about the future because you realize you've been holding the tools all along, quietly building it piece by piece. No one will ever believe in you more than you do. Most people long to be believed in. They crave encouragement, support, applause. They think if someone just noticed their potential, if someone spoke the right words, then they'd finally feel ready. But here's the truth few accept. No one will believe in your dream more than you. No one will chase it harder, no one will care as deeply, and no one is responsible for keeping it alive except you. That truth is uncomfortable because it means there's no magic voice coming to rescue you. No hidden admirer waiting to validate your worth. When the lights are off and the world is quiet, your belief is the only belief that matters. Some days it burns strong, other days it flickers, and on the hardest days, it disappears completely. But that's when the real test begins. When you feel nothing, when even your own belief falters, that is when you must double down. That's the moment where the shallow quit and the serious dig deeper. Confidence isn't a gift, it's a signal. And that signal isn't sent through words, but through effort, motion, and action. When everything inside whispers, what's the point? Remember this. Confidence is not given, it is demonstrated. You prove it by working when no one applauds, by showing up when it would be easier to disappear, by standing tall, not with noise, but with quiet, unshakable standards. That's how belief is proven. It's not in how you talk about your dream, but in how you show up for it. And belief isn't loud, it rarely is. It doesn't need a stage. Sometimes belief is simply refusing to quit again, returning to the desk, the gym, the goal. It's doing the work, not because it feels amazing, but because it matters, because it's what you promised yourself. And every time you follow through, even in silence, you're telling yourself, I believe in this. I believe in me. Picture someone watching you from a distance. They don't hear your doubts, they don't know your inner struggle, but they see your pattern, your posture, your pace. They notice if you show up early or coast in late, if you stay committed or slip when no one's watching. Whether they speak it or not, their respect, or lack of it, is shaped by your consistency. This is how belief is built. Not in words, not in one-time actions, but in consistent steps. In the relentless pursuit of your path, even when that pursuit feels unseen, unrewarded, unappreciated. Because belief doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment between what you say and what you do. So ask yourself, are you waiting to feel confident, or are you willing to build it? Too many wait, distracted and delayed, hoping for some inner switch to flip. But confidence isn't an emotion, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through strain, discomfort, and deliberate repetition. Even when you feel weak, when you act in faith surrounded by doubt, you strengthen that muscle and become someone who trusts the process more than the feeling. And that, right there, is the rarest kind of power. That's how legacies are built, not by those who always felt certain, but by those who kept moving forward anyway. Faith isn't the absence of doubt, it's the decision to walk straight through it. It's looking at the long road ahead and saying, I don't have all the answers, but I'll take the next step, then another and another. Every repetition, every commitment kept, every excuse denied, sends a clear message. I may not feel it today, but I am the one for this. Think about the person you admire most, the one whose life you trade with. Chances are, they weren't always ready. They didn't always feel bold. What they did was act, consistently, authentically. They didn't wait for permission to believe in themselves. They trained their belief through practice, through routine, through non-negotiable standards. And now it's your turn. You must be the one who backs your dream, especially when no one else does. You must be the one who holds the line, especially when the winds blow hardest. Because the longer you move without needing validation, the stronger your inner belief becomes. Eventually, others will notice, but by then, it won't even matter. You'll have already proven it to yourself. Let that be the goal, not just to be believed in, but to become the kind of person who no longer needs belief from anyone else. Because your work speaks, your discipline speaks, your endurance speaks. Together, it builds a life that commands respect, quietly, consistently, permanently. So rise, work, move. Not because you feel ready, not because someone told you to, but because you decided to. Because this dream matters. Because you matter. Every action is shaping the future version of you. One who doesn't just hope for belief, but embodies it. And when that version of you arrives, they'll thank you. Not for waiting, but for building. Remember this, you don't rise to goals, you fall to habits. Setting a goal is easy, almost too easy. You can write it down, announce it online, and for a moment, it feels powerful. But then Monday comes, or a rough night of sleep, or days that feel gray, flat, and pointless. That's when reality sets in. That's when you discover the difference between wanting a goal and building the structure to sustain it. Because here's the truth, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the strength of your habits. Goals give you direction, but habits determine the distance. You can aim for the stars, but if your daily choices keep you in the mud, you'll never leave the ground. And when you feel nothing, no fire, no clarity, no drive, your habits take over. They become your default system. And in those moments, your habits will either protect you or expose you. If you've built strong ones, they carry you. They show up when motivation doesn't. You don't need to debate whether to work out, plan, or push. You just do it because it's no longer a choice. It's who you are. You've trained your system to follow purpose, not feelings. That kind of discipline is rare, and it's unstoppable. But if your habits are weak, stitched together by emotion instead of principle, the moment your feelings dip, you disappear. You vanish into comfort, into delay, into nothingness. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow brings the same softness, the same excuses. And soon, your goal is buried under layers of broken routines. This is why habits matter more than hopes. They're not just behaviors, they're infrastructure. They either protect your momentum or allow it to leak away. They are the silent guards of your future, trained in ordinary moments, built in hours no one applauds. So ask yourself, what habits have I trained? When I'm tired, does discipline or delay kick in? When I'm discouraged, do I lean on routine or collapse into reaction? Your habits tell the truth. Are you reinforcing your strength or your excuses? Picture this. You wake up feeling nothing. No spark, no fire. But your alarm went off, and you rise anyway. You tie your shoes, step outside, begin your walk, your workout, your writing. And halfway through, something shifts. You're no longer fighting, you're flowing. You're not debating action, you're already in it. And in that moment, you realize you're already winning. Not because you felt like it, but because your system carried you forward. That's the power of well-built habits. They turn difficult tasks into automatic ones. They remove friction, create rhythm, and make excellence feel normal. Not because life gets easier, but because you grow stronger. The opposite is also true. Weak habits invite chaos. If your morning depends on your mood, your entire day rests on sand. If your workouts rely on motivation, your fitness disappears the moment life gets hard. If your focus only shows up when convenient, your work becomes shallow and scattered. Weak habits don't protect you, they expose you. That's why design matters. You can't drift into greatness, you must build it. Systems must be intentional. Want strength? Make the gym non-negotiable. Want to be a writer? Write daily, no matter how little. Want discipline? Start with your mornings. Don't hope they'll be productive, engineer them to be. Ask yourself, are you designing your habits or drifting inside them? Because if you don't build them consciously, they'll build themselves and rarely lead you where you want to go. Here's the key. Don't chase intensity, chase consistency. It's not about running 10 miles once a week. It's about running 2 miles every day. It's not about writing 10 pages when inspiration hits. It's about writing 1 page every morning, rain or shine. Because repetition builds identity, and identity sustains behavior when feelings fade. Your habits are your hidden engine. They run quietly in the background, shaping your life whether you notice or not. So make sure they work for you, not against you. Audit them, refine them, strengthen them, and most importantly, respect them. Because when the storms hit, when emotions crash, when your vision blurs, habits are what hold the line. Don't underestimate the power of routine, of doing the right thing even when it feels like nothing. Mastery isn't built in grand moments. It's forged in daily commitment. The most successful people didn't win by chasing motivation. They won by building habits that never broke. So today, even if you feel nothing, act anyway. Let your habits lead. Let your systems carry you. Trust the structure you've built. And if it's weak, strengthen it. One brick, one decision at a time. The quality of your life will always reflect the quality of your habits. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. Build a system strong enough to catch you. And one day you'll look back and realize your habits didn't just support success. They made it inevitable. The world doesn't respond to wishes. It doesn't bend to hopes or adjust to silent dreams. It reacts to your energy, what you project, what you embody, what you broadcast through consistent action. And that is the truth. When you feel nothing, low, empty, exhausted, that energy can either vanish or be created. You are not a passenger in this life, drifting through days waiting for something to happen. You are a transmitter, a generator, a source. Every decision you make, every way you show up, every habit you keep sends a signal. Walk with strength, speak with clarity, move with intention, and life notices. Doors open, people pay attention, opportunities lean your way. The opposite is just as true. Hesitate, doubt yourself, second guess, or carry uncertainty, and the world reflects it back. It doesn't judge, it mirrors. Carry tired energy, you'll attract tired results. Move with hesitation, and hesitation returns. It's not punishment, it's a pattern, a loop that starts and ends with you. But most people don't see this. They sit still, waiting to feel confident, waiting to be inspired, waiting for life to notice them. Yet life is not watching, it's responding. You don't wait to feel magnetic. You become magnetic by how you show up. Especially when it's quiet, when it's hard, when everything inside says, why bother? That's the moment that defines you. Picture this. After a long, draining day where nothing went right, your body tired and your spirit dim, you walk into a room. You could drag your feet, keep your head down, and carry your weight like a badge. Or you could choose differently. Lift your chin, square your shoulders, walk with intention, steady your gaze, breathe deep, and speak with conviction. You're not faking joy, you're embodying presence. In that moment, you decide to show up as the version of yourself that refuses to disappear. And suddenly, people notice, not your struggle, not your pain, but your presence. They feel something in you they can't quite name, but they respect it. While others shrink under pressure, you stand tall, not for them, but for yourself. That kind of energy shifts the atmosphere. So ask yourself, what signal are you sending? In the way you move, speak, and carry yourself, what are you teaching the world about who you are? Are you waiting for life to change for you? Or are you willing to change yourself for life? Energy isn't random. It's built, generated, earned through decisions, not emotions. You create it by leading your body before your mind feels ready. You shift your mood by shifting your movement. You influence your surroundings not by yelling louder, but by standing firmer. Think of a lighthouse. It doesn't move, it doesn't chase ships, it doesn't need to prove its worth. It simply stands tall, shines bright, and stays consistent. In doing so, it becomes a guide. That's the power of energy aligned with purpose. When your presence is rooted in principle, not emotion, you become a steady point in a drifting world. Think about the people you admire most, the ones who walk into a room and shift its atmosphere. They don't always feel strong or prepared, but they've trained themselves to bring energy instead of waiting for it. They've built a posture of strength, a tone of certainty, a rhythm of confidence. Over time, the world responds, not because of luck, but because they chose their energy before the world could choose it for them. And here's the truth, you can do this too, right now. You don't need more time, more motivation, or someone to push you forward. You need only to decide, stand taller, speak clearer, act sharper. Choose intensity over apathy. Meet life as a fighter, not a bystander. This isn't pretending everything's fine. It's refusing to be defined by your low moments. It's leaning on discipline when emotion fades. Because energy isn't always a gift. It can be a weapon, something you forge through movement, something you wield with intention. When you feel nothing, that's the world testing who you are. Your power is most needed not when the sun shines, but when the storm breaks. While others wait for the rain to pass, you step into it. You shift your atmosphere. You lead yourself. And in shifting your energy, you shift your world. Not in one explosion, but piece by piece. One breath, one choice, one strong step at a time. So rise even when you don't feel like it. Walk with energy, move with intent, speak with conviction. Transmit power, not passivity. Be the lighthouse, be the flame, the one who changes the temperature of the room instead of matching it. Because your energy is your signature, and when you master it, you master everything. Stillness is not always peace. There's a stillness that nourishes the soul, the kind that comes after honest effort, after a day well spent, when you've given your best and sit present, grounded, content. That kind of stillness is true power. It centers you, restores you, and prepares you for the next rise. But there's another kind of stillness, the one that creeps in when you stop trying, when you stop challenging yourself, when days blur and goals fade. That stillness doesn't heal you, it hollows you. And when you feel nothing, when your fire grows dim and your heart is quiet, you must learn to tell the difference. Not all silence is peace. Sometimes it's drift. And the danger of drift is that it doesn't feel dangerous. It feels easy, it feels calm. But that quiet may not be your soul resting. It may be your ambition dying. True peace isn't the absence of struggle. It's the reward of movement, of progress, of knowing deep inside that you acted with purpose, that you faced resistance and kept moving. Peace is earned by showing up, by confronting your fear, by refusing to waste your days in passive comfort. But when stillness comes from delay, avoidance, or fatigue, when you're not resting but hiding, it isn't peace, it's a warning. It's your deeper self whispering that you're letting go of something you once cared about. And if you ignore it, you begin to coast. Most people don't crash in an instant. They fade slowly, silently. It starts with saying later instead of now, choosing easy over effort, letting one mistake turn into two, then into a week, a month, a year, until one day they look up and wonder where the time went, where they went. That's the cost of unchecked stillness, of getting too comfortable with comfort, of confusing numbness with rest. And if you're not careful, it becomes your new normal. That's why when you feel nothing, your job is not to settle. Your job is to test that silence, to disturb it, to shake it loose. You don't wait to feel alive again. You interrupt the deadness with movement, with effort, with fire. You disrupt the drift before it defines you. Picture a pond, still and smooth. From the outside, it looks peaceful, reflective. But beneath the surface, no current, no life. The water is stagnant, lifeless. Isn't that what happens when we stop challenging ourselves? We look still, but inside, we're hollow. That kind of stillness isn't grounding, it's stagnation. And stagnation slowly suffocates your potential. So what do? You move, even when you don't feel like it, especially then. Write one sentence, take a walk, do something that reminds you you're not stuck, you're still alive. Speak the truth you've been swallowing. Stretch, clean, confront, create. Do anything that reminds your soul, I'm still alive in here. You won't always feel an instant shift. The first attempt may not bring a wave of clarity or energy, but that isn't the point. The point is to prove to yourself that you're not gone, that you still choose to fight, to grow, to rise. Ask yourself, has your silence become comfort, or has it become a cage? Comfort should be a place to return, to regroup, to recover, not a permanent residence. Yet too many people design lives that avoid discomfort, decorate their cages with distractions, and then wonder why they feel lost. You must reclaim your edge. That begins by recognizing when stillness stops serving you, when it's no longer reflection but resistance, no longer rest but retreat disguised as calm. You were not made to fade. You are not built for numbness. You are meant to move, to create, to act in alignment with your deeper calling, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard. There will be days when your fire burns low, when your mind whispers that nothing matters, when stillness tempts you to stay put. In those moments, you must choose, not based on feelings, but on truth. You know what you're capable of, you know what you've been avoiding, and deep down you know peace isn't found in hiding. It's earned by living in a way that wins your own respect. So don't settle if the silence feels too comfortable. Challenge it. If your days are too still, stir them. If you feel hollow, fill the space with intention. Move, speak, build, begin. Stillness can be sacred, but only when chosen. Not when it becomes your default, and only when it leads to movement, not replaces it. You weren't meant to float. You were meant to rise. So rise, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, but now. The stillness you're in isn't home. It's a signal to move. You either lead yourself or lose yourself. At every stage, one question decides your outcome. Who's leading you? If you don't, someone else will. And when you feel nothing, leadership matters most. Don't wait for a savior. Command yourself. Set a direction, give the order, then obey it. People admire strength, but real strength is self-direction. It's getting up without a speech, committing without applause. It's saying, I go, even when nothing inside says yes. That kind of leadership pulls you out of slumps, earns quiet respect, and creates progress where others see none. Picture standing in a fog, no signs, no map. Most sit and wait. You walk forward, trusting the one thing no fog can hide, your decision to move. Are you being led, or are you leading? When you feel nothing, lead yourself. One step can restore your direction and your power. When you feel nothing, it's not the end, it's the beginning. The moment you move through the silence, you reclaim strength. Don't wait to feel ready or alive. Force yourself, step by step, choice by choice, until the fire returns. Motion creates meaning, and discipline awakens power. You're not lost, you're being forged. So rise, push forward, and prove that even in the absence of feeling, your will remains unbreakable. Wishing you health and happiness, and remember to subscribe to my channel, Mindset Daily.